Brentford 3, United 1, right? An absolute, I would say, a horror show of a game. I'm not going to say it was a horror show, but it was one of those games where it makes you question everything, you know? It makes you question everything. It makes you question absolutely everything. And yeah, man, it wasn't great. Let's just say that it was not great. It was not great. We lost 3-1. We probably could have lost way more than 3-1, to be completely honest. Luckily, Brentford are pretty shit. Even though we lost to them, this is just objectively speaking, Brentford are not a great team. So we were very, very fortunate in that regard. We were very, very fortunate in the regard that Brentford are not a great team and they weren't able to really batter us the way we should be deserved to get battered. But it was bad. It was real bad. And yeah, man, I don't know what to say, really. I really don't know what to say. It just keeps getting worse and worse for us. Just when you think things are going to get better, just when you think we are on the right tracks, things seems to go the completely other way. Let me just quickly get this so it can fit on the screen. But I think a lot of people, myself included, are not that surprised, right? I'm not super surprised. I was kind of surprised at the optimism a lot of fans have, because I think in general anyway, United fans are weirdly giddy and optimistic. I've always wondered why, especially on social media. There's a bunch of fans on social media who seem to always hope for the best. And I don't really understand that when you watch us every week, you know? I can get it if you're like a rival fan. If you're a rival fan and you don't really watch us every week, I can get why you can maybe have this assumption that we're a far better team than what we are based on the players and the name brand recognition and all that malarkey. But I think if you watch us every week, I don't see how people were really confident we were going to win 2 games in a row. People are like, oh yeah, we're going to win 2 wins in a row. We're going to, after we beat Chelsea, the Brentford game, that's going to be one where we're going to finally get some wins on the table. 2 wins in a row. And I never really thought that. I thought, if anything, the way Brentford play, they're kind of, you know, for lack of a better word, they're sort of like Sunday league style of playing football. I actually thought that was going to give us problems anyway. I was never under the assumption, I was never under the idea that Brentford were going to be an easy game to play against or easy club. Especially with that guy, Igor, out front, who's been banging the goals back from flipping injury, which is just our luck, by the way, right? They get a striker who they've had already, comes back from injury, and he's now suddenly firing. So I was never really super confident that we were going to win. But, you know, Brentford, facing Brentford after Chelsea is probably better than facing Liverpool, Man City, Arsenal or something. So, you know, I'll take it. But the game immediately started off on the wrong foot. The game really started off on the wrong foot, in my opinion. Well, I guess after the first 10, let's be fair, the first maybe 10 minutes, let's say maybe 7, right? The first maybe 7 minutes, we played decently. We were popping the ball around, we're looking pretty decent. But the problem with this United team is that, like, you always know if the other team scores on the counter or if they score, like, unexpectedly, it's going to make our players drop their heads. You know, the other teams, like, even Man City, they used to do this in the beginning. Man City would, like, dominate possession, but they might face a team like us sometimes where we get jammy and we sneak a little goal, you know, against a run of play. Like, they've had 80% possession. We haven't touched the ball for the last 10 minutes. But then we get a break. Boom, boom, boom. Suddenly the ball's in the box and bang, we smash it in. You know, usually someone like a Scott McTominay bangs it in and we're done, right? But Man City wouldn't let their heads drop. They get the ball back into the center of the pitch, take kick off and go again, you know? They wouldn't let that affect them. And I think we have the opposite effect. Once the team scores, even if we're in a good momentum, it kind of deflates us. So although we were started off well, as soon as they broke, it kind of, you knew what was going to happen, especially with our defending. Like, I was not really happy that one ball over the top, I think it was from Henderson, that one ball over the top found Igor Thiago. Oh no, he didn't find, I think he found a strike partner who passed it then to Igor Thiago. But our defense was all over the pitch. There was no midfield. That ball completely bypassed the midfield. It completely bypassed the defenders. For some reason, Harry Maguire was the last line of defense. And I think that has to be a tactical thing. That has to be you have to blame the manager for that. You have to blame the manager, because I don't know how you're defending with a high line with 3 defenders at the back and Harry Maguire is your last line of defense, knowing that he's slow, you know, knowing that he's not got the best acceleration, whatever, all that malarkey. It just put him in a bad position, and obviously he looked flipping horrendous trying to get back. But to be fair as well, the ball did land in an opportune space for Igor Thiago, and he was really able to just, like, basically get right on goal, right, as the ball went over the top. So I don't think Maguire had any. Even if Maguire was fast, I don't think he would have got back anyway. So that goal. Although I wasn't happy with it, I can maybe chalk it to just like, nerves and not being on the game. Although I think we spent 1 week without any European football, 1 week training all day or training all week. You'd expect us to come out of the blocks firing, ready to fucking go. We didn't do that, and that's the punishment that we got. Fair, no problem. But there are little things that concern me. The things that concern me were the lack of urgency from our defenders in that first 10 minutes. I saw Shaw jogging back. I saw the Lit jogging back. I saw Maguire trying to play Igor Thiago offside. Fucking ridiculous. And I also just saw like a lack of, a confusion from what's going on there. And the other thing that I didn't like as well was from Cunha. Cunha got fouled, which probably should have been a foul, right? He probably should have got a free kick. He didn't get it. And I didn't like the lack of urgency, like having your hands up on the floor in the first 9 minutes when you don't get the foul. I don't like that. Get up quickly. If that's later on in the game, fair enough. But in the beginning, I don't like that. Sure, cool. It happened anyway. And then the game continues and we don't really get any handle on the game. I don't feel like. Even after they score, I don't feel like we really took control back of the game. I think it was still back and forth. And against Brentford, I don't want that. I want us to be better than that. I want us to kind of grab the game by the scruff of the neck and kind of control it, dominate possession, pepper them with shots. We didn't really pepper them with shots too much. I don't think we even had a shot on target. I think the only shot on target we had was maybe from Sesko. Maybe I think he picked up the ball in the edge of the box and he spun and banged it, but we didn't have many chances. So we were playing pretty shit. And then, of course, the second goal happens, right? We're playing pretty shit and the second goal happens. And I think the second goal might be worse than the first goal in terms of a comedy of errors from all the players playing. An absolute comedy of errors. Number one, again, that long ball. I'm not liking how often long balls down the wing through the middle completely destroy us. I don't know who it was again. Maybe it was Henderson once more. Another long ball to Brentford's winger. He picks up the ball. He runs down the side. I think a 1-2 with Igor. And then he cuts the ball back. And for some reason, Bayinda parries the ball out into the danger zone. It comes back to Igor Thiago. He scores the easiest goal he's ever going to score this season. All fucking season. I don't like how the one long ball destroys us. I don't like how easy they were able to do that 1-2 on the side of the pitch. I also don't like how often, it doesn't matter who's in goal now, Onana or Bayinda, why do our keepers like to parry the ball into the danger zone? What happened to parrying the ball out wide? What happened to jumping on it, trying to grab it? Why are they always parrying it right into the D, where the striker's always going to be, right? That's where any striker worth their salt, any striker who's got anything about them is going to be hovering in that D. Any attacking midfielder is going to be hovering in the box in general. So there's always going to be somebody that's going to be sniffing the goal. And of course, Bayinda parried it out there. Igor Thiago jumped on it and he scored, honestly, an easier goal than he's ever scored in his entire flipping life. It's absolutely crazy. And then, of course, again, still no control on the game. And then I think we get our goal, right? The 2-1 goal, which kind of would give us some inkling, some little inkling of flipping light that we might get back into the game. It came off if I'm not mistaken, it came off of Dogu as well. Dogu's been, unironically speaking, right? I know people are kind of in love with Mbeumo, but he's not scoring goals. So I don't really give a fuck, really. It's all good doing all that fancy stuff, but if you're not scoring goals or you're not assisting, then I don't give a fuck. But I think Dogu's been our best attacking player. I really enjoyed watching him bomb up that left. He's definitely been the best attacking fullback. He's given us an idea, an inkling of what kind of Amrin wants from that position. It would be nice if we had two of him. Another one of his quality on the right hand side, but we don't. We have guys like Dallo and shit. But yeah, Dogu was really good. He didn't give up on the ball. It was probably about to go out. He scooped it back into the side of the box, like a big like looping kick back into the box. And then a couple of their defenders of the goalkeeper got under the ball. Sesko heads it, kicks it with his right foot, heads it, keeper saves it, kicks it with his right foot, keeper saves it, hits his left foot. It's almost like a perfect hat trick of attempts, right? Header, right foot, left foot. And he finally got the goal. Now, if I'm being a little bit picky, if I'm being a little bit critical, I'd say he should have scored with a header. if I'm being a little bit critical, I said striker of his ilk, 6'5", he should be scoring with a header alone, sending it the opposite direction, boom, it's in. But the fact that the ball kept dropping to him and he was still composed enough to get the shots or get the attempts on target and then score the third one, no problem. Happy you got yourself on a score sheet. But again, it came at the worst time possible. You couldn't really celebrate it or enjoy it because we shouldn't be 2-0 down away from home from Brentford anyway. Especially not this Brentford, right? This Brentford aren't even good. We lost to better Brentford teams with Wooden Buemo and fucking, what's his fucking name? The other guy playing up front. Right, we faced good Brentfords back in the day, which you could understand why we lost, especially with a Thomas Frank as manager. He's a fucking great manager. See what he's doing fucking at Tottenham. But Jesus Christ, man. Still, you'd hope we were going to push for the second before half time. We didn't. The second half starts, and again, more of the same. Not really. I don't really feel enough urgency, even though we're 2-1 down, and we shouldn't need a win. We're trying to go for the win. We're not going for the draw. You think there'll be more urgency? Again, there's no urgency. And Brentford end up getting the third goal. But before the third goal happens, we have a penalty. Right? And I don't think the penalty, I would have taken it anyway. It's not sometimes, when you get penalties, it's like, oh, we don't deserve the victory. But at this stage of our season, at this stage of our quote-unquote development under Amrin, I'm taking anything. We get the penalty. And Wemmer gets pulled down in the box by the Brentford defender. It probably should have been a red card, to be fair. It probably should have been a red card because it was a clear denying of a goal-scoring attempt. He wasn't even trying to defend. He just tried to pull him back. I don't know why he didn't get a red card, but that's the thing about football. Even though we have VAR, that's why if you're a defender, it's still a pretty interesting sport to play and to kind of figure out how to defend. Because even though we have VAR, you can still get away with things, That's the interesting thing about football now. Even though we have VAR, you can still get away with those type of pulls because that is a red card, standardly, right? And that would have probably changed the whole climate of the game. Even if Bruno still misses, that changes the climate of the game because they've got 10 men now. We're attacking against 10. Doesn't happen. Cool. Bruno steps up, and to be fair to Brentford, they did well. Brentford did well too. Brentford really stalled the penalty. They were somehow allowed to make a triple substitution before the penalty was taken. So Bruno was waiting for fucking ages. Fair enough, he had the ball under his arm, but he was stewing over that penalty for fucking ages. He eventually takes the penalty. From the run-up already, I felt like he wasn't going to score. He didn't look that confident. The referee blew the whistle. It took him a minute to really compose himself. And then he walks up really slowly to the penalty spot. And yeah, he kind of tries to side foot it in the opposite corner. But obviously the keeper reads it really well and saves it. Now, the keeper saved it. I don't think it was a great save, but I think more so Bruno took a shit penalty. And then cool. Now the game is definitely over because I didn't see us scoring from open play anyway. I think if we score that second goal, that maybe galvanizes the players who have not a lot of self-belief and they're super emotionally fucking, they're super emotionally unstable. So I don't think so it wasn't ever happened anyway if we didn't score that penalty. We don't score the penalty, and then soon after, Brentford get back the ascendancy in the game. I think we make some substitution. Euro and Maino come on, who probably should have came on too late. I think Euro should have started, obviously. But they come on anyway. They change a little bit of the flow of the midfield, especially with Ugarte now off the pitch, who's not that great on the ball, but can defend pretty well. And then, of course, naturally, we end up giving away the third goal at the end, which kind of seals the fucking game for us, isn't it? Because if we aren't going to come back at 2-1, we're definitely not going to come back at 3-1. The third goal was fairly well taken. Jensen clobbered it, but I think upon watching the replay, I think a better goalkeeper saves that. It came right through his body. Yes, it was shot with power, and a lot of these new balls, they kind of pick up pace, as you hit it. But I think a top goalkeeper would save that. If David De Gea was in goal, I think he saves that. He tips that over the bar. But again, this is what we get when we have like shitty goalkeepers that Erik ten Hag kind of brought into the club, innit, with Bayinda and fucking Onana, who's now left, thankfully. But Bayinda is not really, he kept us in the game in the first half, to be fair to him. It could have been 4 or more in the first half, so I wouldn't be too critical. But I think that third goal, a goalkeeper saves it. But by then anyway, the game was already over, so it doesn't really fucking matter. And then it ends 3-1. Now, little tidbits of the game. Little tidbits to highlight. Number one tidbit I want to highlight is it's fairly evident to me that if Bruno Fernandes doesn't score or assist, he's a fairly useless football player. I've been a known, documented hater of Bruno Fernandes for a long time, mostly because I think the fan base overhypes him, and also because I think at the time when Bruno came in, there was almost this like civil war amongst United fans between like the ones who like Pogba and the ones who like Bruno. And because Bruno was getting up numbers and he was doing all the stats and the stat padding and assists and stuff, he was made to look better than Pogba. And obviously Pogba also was going through a bad time. But Bruno is garbage, man. Bruno offers nothing to that midfield, nothing to that team if he's not scoring and assisting. And the reason why I bring him up is because I feel like at the moment, the man just trying to shoehorn him, square peg, round hole type of him in the midfield or in the team, because he's quote unquote our best player. So he kind of has to play no matter what. So even if he's not playing in his best position, at the moment he's playing as a deep lining, double pivot, midfielder type of thing. That's not his best position. He plays better going forward. He should be playing in a position that maybe, Cunha's playing, or maybe a bit further forward, whatever, right? But he's not, because those other attacking players are better than him in those second players. So they put him in the position that he can maybe still influence the game. But he can't. And I think if you're going to play this system that Amorim wants, right, where it's like a 3-4-2-1, your wing backs are basically another form of wingers. Your two attacking midfielders are two attacking midfielders. So you're going to need Bruno and Ugarte to kind of hold that position in midfield. I think Maguire can maybe step in and help a bit, but again, he's slow. But I think you're going to need those two midfielders to occupy that space. And unfortunately, Bruno isn't disciplined enough. He's not potentially disciplined enough to occupy that space. He goes wandering too often for me. And when he gets on the ball, he's just not good enough to be a midfielder. Maybe he's good enough to play as a whatever, hybrid 6 or whatever. No, number 9, right? That might be a way to go forward. But I don't think in any other big team he could really operate as a midfielder. He's just not good enough. Maybe before when he was assisting and scoring, but now those are dried up for the most part. He's really lacking influence, and I think for the future of our team, we have to work out a solution where he doesn't play. He can't be playing every game just off his name brand or his reputation alone. I just don't think, number one, he's good enough to demand that kind of level of inclusion, and he's obviously not playing good enough on form. But for some reason, Bruno doesn't get judged on form. Bruno gets judged on previous history, so he has to play, which I don't like. I think it's almost like the same thing happened to Rooney towards the end of his career at Man United. Rooney was clearly over the hill and not doing well. And instead of just like playing him off the bench, they'd always play him to start because it's fucking Wayne Rooney. But then he'd look horrible, and it'd kind of ruin reputation, right? It'd have the fans kind of booing at him and going crazy. And he doesn't need that. Just play him off the bench, give him the best ability to do that. So, and in Bruno's case, I think he would improve. I think he'd be better because he's never been off the pitch. He's always been playing. And I think maybe being away and not being able to start all the time would actually do wonders for him, and he might actually get the motivation back into play. There was a moment actually towards the end of the game where it looked like he gave up. I'm not going to lie. He was, throughout the game anyway, he was annoying. He was back to his annoying self, waving his hands in the air, rolling his eyes, like just being a cunt, always moaning, which I fucking hate. And if I'm not mistaken, there was a bit towards the end of the match where he got the ball in midfield and he passed it to Maino and just told him go. Like, he didn't want the ball. He didn't want to like dictate the play. He told Maino to figure it out, and he just had his head down, like kind of in a strop, and he didn't really do much. And I'm pretty sure maybe the third goal came off the back of that. I'm pretty sure. If I'm not mistaken, I think the third goal came off the back of him, like not really caring, not really trying to run back. And obviously the game was kind of over by then. I'm not liking the lack of service that Sesko's getting or not getting. Personally, I don't rate him that highly anyway. I don't think he's that much better than Højlund. I think he's just a taller, maybe more sophisticated quote-unquote version of a Højlund. But I think we could have kept Højlund, saved that money and spent on the midfield. I think Højlund was worthy of getting another season playing up front for us, especially with his desire to play for the club as well. I think he would have made it work. But I don't like the fact that Sesko, who clearly looks like he thrives on balls through the middle, balls around the corner, crosses into the box, we never do that. The one time we get a cross into the box, look how much trouble it causes and he scores a goal. But how often is he on the end of crosses? I don't think I've ever seen him make a run across the defender near post to flick a ball into the goal. No one's made that cross into the box. No one's done a long ball that he could maybe run onto, you know, with his chest and kind of chest it down and like volley like he's done it. Like we've not seen. He's not the same striker playing for us. Cunha doesn't look the same playing for us. He's having to travel with the ball like 60 yards with no one near him to kind of get close to the goal. Mbeumo is obviously looking not like the player that we saw at Brentford. Not finishing, not getting the ball closer to the goal either. I feel like whenever he was when Mbeumo was at Brentford, he would literally get the ball on the bar line, but he'd be like 10 yards further forward. At United, he's almost receiving the ball at the halfway line. Same happened to Anthony. That's why I felt like Anthony deserved a second chance at United, because he kept getting. He's never been fast, but he never said he was. He was receiving the ball at the halfway line, and then he having to sprint past like 7 players to try and get closer to the goal. Whereas you should have the ball, like if it's further closer to the goal, there's going to be more of a chance that he can impact the game and obviously attack and be a threat on goal. So I'm not liking that either. And then of course the selection. Amarin's, in my opinion, I'm sure some of you agree, he's definitely going to get himself fired. He's definitely going to get himself sacked for trusting the wrong players. Trusting the Maguires, the Shaws, the Bruno Fernandes, the Ugartes. All of that trust he puts at the Dallos. Those are going to be players that are going to end up getting him sacked because they're shit. The Ugarte thing, if you're going to play Ugarte as a defensive midfielder because Casemiro is not here, play him alongside fucking Maino. Play him alongside a midfielder that can maybe hold that position. Then that would make some level of sense to me. And then maybe sacrifice one of the wingers if you want to play Bruno because you want to play him up front and then play him there. That's the only way to do it. But you can't play Bruno next to Ugarte because Bruno's not defensively disciplined. And then when Ugarte gets left in the midfield by himself and he gets onto the ball, we're reminded of how shit he is. But that's not his role. His role is to be a destroyer. But he's now asked to play make. He's now asked to get the ball and pass it 5-10 yards, which he can't do that well. Not consistently. You want him to get the ball, destroy, pass to the people that can pass, and then go from there. But he's now getting the ball, having to create. It's just, it's a fucking nightmare. And then Luke Shaw and Harry Maguire. Why are they playing for United in big 2025? Why are Luke Shaw and Harry Maguire playing for Manchester United in big 2025? It makes no sense. And Luke Shaw, you see the injuries, the lack of discipline and diet, whatever, is taking its toll on his body. Because although he probably has a six-pack, his mobility is horrendous. He can't sprint back. That recovery pace that he was noted for isn't there. He can't turn. He just looks weird and very stiff. Maguire has always been slow and very kind of rigid in his movement anyway. And he looks fucking horrendous. But he's been made to look worse, to be honest, because we're playing a high line and 3 at the back. Maybe in the back 4 he doesn't look as bad and fucking vulnerable. But still, I don't want to rely on those two. We've got centre-backs on the bench. We have Euro. We have Heaven, who could play that role. I don't know why we're persistent with these motherfuckers. It makes absolutely no sense to me. And De Ligt also had a bit of a horror show. De Ligt had a horror show for the first goal and the second goal, if we're going to be honest. And for me anyway, I'm never going to change my mind on De Ligt being a Dutch Phil Jones. He has no control of his body and his limbs. His balance was all over the place. He's always sliding last minute to get on the ball. He's not very Dutch in his like play on the ball. Like for a Dutch defender, he's pretty shit with the ball at his feet. I don't rate him personally. I'm not the biggest fan of him. But, you know, maybe he's getting his second life at United is what it is. And obviously, Dalot offered basically nothing going forward. Absolutely nothing. He come back from injury and he's straight into a starting lineup, but he's absolutely pants. So there's so much to do, so much work that has to be done. And I just don't think Amarin's a guy, unfortunately. The system isn't working. He's not willing to adapt or change it, to tweak it, to make it work. I also understand why it's not working, because he doesn't really have the level of play that he needs to make it work. But this club isn't going to buy them, as they showed when he first joined. He never got the players when he first joined in January. He didn't get all the players he needed in fucking the summer, although we did exit a lot of players. But then it just comes down to wins, man. It just comes down to wins. And unfortunately, like, losing this many games, consistently losing these many games, I just don't think you deserve the time. You just don't. You have to, and I think he said it himself, you have to earn the time to make your changes, to develop things. And I don't think he's earned it. He's not earned anything. It's been pretty shocking. I'm also not enjoying his emotional instability. The fact that he kind of always threatens to walk but never does. He's always crying about the players and this and that. I just don't like it. I don't like how emotional he seems to be. I know that's his nature and he's Portuguese and whatever, but it's annoying for me. I find it really fucking annoying. and I'm sure the players probably do as well. We probably need a change, but I think the club, the fans, and those players don't deserve a change. I'm more than happy to have Amarin stay to the end of the season to punish everybody, especially those ones who wanted Erik ten Hag to stay that one season, especially the ones who had all the faith in Ineos. I think we all deserve to witness this all season, even if it means us getting relegated. I wouldn't be down with Amarin getting sacked. I actually want him to stay. Let him stay. Let him absolutely ruin the club. Let it go down to fucking horrible, horrible shit. Let us fall down by the fucking league table and eventually get relegated. I would fucking love that if we got relegated. I would love it so much if we got relegated. That would be the wake-up call that I think a lot of fans needed, because some fans thought because we bought in Buemo, Cunha and Sesko that we were going to finish in the top 4. Huh? How? With that midfield? With that midfield, we were going to finish top 4. With that lack of wing-backs? How are we going to do that? So I'm glad now I've been proven somewhat right. And now, here we are. Here we bloody are. Continuing on about here we bloody are.